Good morning and welcome for our thought for the day on this Wednesday. My name is John Towler. I'm an associate priest with the Avon Valley Churches. I'm happy to be here with you all this morning. First of all, a story. A young lad with golden hair stands by a pond. The pond is gloriously overshadowed by a very old oak tree. The lad is bemused with the pond and its contents. As he stands in anticipation of what mysteries the pond may hold, the old oak commands, "Look, look well." And the young boy leans forward and sees water boatmen and dragonflies skidding across the surface of the pond. He sees beautiful water lilies and snails caught up in pondweed. His first view is what exists on the surface of the pond. As he stands taking in this feast of activity, the old oak is more insistent. "Young man, look, look well." As he peers deeper into the pond, beyond the surface, he sees activity of a different kind. There, scampering what seems in well-determined directions, are silver carp and golden fish alongside wriggling spawn of different kinds and shapes. He spots a toad, a frog maybe. His excitement grows. And again the old oak pauses and rumbles and cracks her leaves. "Look again and look well." So the young lad looks as deep as the bottom of the pond, where he sees debris, some broken pots, a few newts, and some dead leaves. All becomes rather murky. Moments pass as the young lad is held in utter fascination at the depths of this arena of life within the pond. Eventually, the old oak raises herself to her full stature and very quietly, almost humming, purrs, "You have looked well. Look well once more." As he looks, and he looks, and he looks, he is unable to see any deeper. And the more he looks, the more his eyes grow tired and aching. Excitement turns to disappointment. As he starts to turn his gaze away from the pond, he blinks, and as he blinks, he sees a small boy with golden hair looking into the pond, on whom he looks with amazement. A story. The season of Lent is traditionally a time when we are encouraged to look beyond the surface of things to what is beyond. It is a time when we recall the temptations of Jesus in the wilderness. As the young lad looks on the surface of the pond, he simply sees what is on top. Looking at Lent on the surface might mean simply seeing this period as a time when we give up sugar and tea, and generally perhaps become a bit more pious and miserable as befits the season. What Harry Williams calls a good orthodox grovel to a pseudo-lord, the Pharisee in each one of us we call God, and who despises the rest of who we are. It can be a time of wanting to show others how good we can be, displaying different forms of spiritual arrogance, maybe unconsciously as a way of obtaining some heavenly brownie points. But that is to see the wilderness as something on the outside. "Look deeper," the old oak encourages the young man. "Look well." What do I see? A real desire and willingness, yes, Lord, to do the Lent groups, maybe a bit more regular reading of the scriptures, maybe a devotional book that doesn't really speak to my condition, but nevertheless is what a good Christian does in Lent. Not very satisfying or enlightening, but I do it as my duty. And all of this, of course, is not to be despised. But is it all there is? And so the old oak tree again knows something I don't, maybe by a gentle encouragement to look deeper. Dare I own my sense of isolation, especially during this time of COVID lockdown? Dare I look within myself? Isolation from family and friends, social contacts, a disorientation in my work, those lack of hugs and kisses, that lack of touch, a lack of concentration. All this feels a bit barren, unsatisfying, and indeed worrying. I thought I knew myself. I thought I knew how to take control of these uncertainties. I've never been quite this depressed before. Where has my motivation for enjoying myself disappeared to? And so, rumbling at its roots, the old oak tree encourages me to look to the very bottom of the pond, to the very bottom of my soul. True, it is not all feelings of loneliness and despair down there. I still have my moments of joy, my remembrances of having been once connected with myself and those around me. But at times I am pushed to my limits, if I'm honest. The young lad, you'll remember, becomes drowsy from intently looking into the depths of the pond, until in that he has a glimpse. He sees an image of a young lad with curly golden hair, like as in a mirror on the surface of the pond. He smiles. It's him. Is it God? I wonder. You will remember that it is the Spirit who leads Jesus to be tempted in the wilderness, tempted to trust bodily comfort in the form of bread, tempted to trust whether Scripture is true, and tempted to be a ruler of all the kingdoms of the earth. Because all temptations are about the potential abuse of power, whether personally, politically, or religiously. What I want to suggest is that when the young lad sees the reflection of himself on the surface of the pond, he is seeing the Spirit of God who is in the depths of each one of us. It is the place deep down inside of us where the Spirit of God mingles with our spirit so that we become indivisible. Both then God and me are thrown into the wilderness together. We feel alone, isolated, cut off, despairing, maybe, but not alone. It was with Jesus, so it is with us. The season of Lent then can become an inward journey of the soul as I search for God in my midst. What Anna, in her lovely book, Mr. God, this is Anna, stunningly calls God in my middle. I'm sure during this time of COVID, we've been tempted to do many things. To despair, be cynical about politicians, lock ourselves away, blame China, Brazil for starting this wretched COVID pandemic. And our distrust throws up wild demons and beasts in the shape of terror and panic, being unusually scared, angry at things we cannot control. Lent can be a season for living rather than for feeling half alive for all the things we feel that we should be denying ourselves. The old oak tree continues to be our guide in helping us to recognize that we, like the young lad, are made in the image of God, and it is his Spirit who lives in us. As God's most wonderful image realized in the person of Jesus, we have a pattern for our daily living. We have a divine man tempted in all ways in which we are tempted. He chose the path of loving sacrifice, a loving which doesn't give in order to get, but which finds in the act of giving itself a perfect satisfaction. That satisfaction is ours also when we allow ourselves to give for love's sake. That is when the spirit of love truly mingles with our spirit. Then we know we're truly alive. We are truly the children of an Easter God. And now some words of a psalm. O Lord, you have searched me out and known me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search out my path and my sitting down, and are acquainted with all my ways. Even before a word is on my tongue, O Lord, you know it completely. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is so high that I cannot attain it. Where can I go from your spirit, or where can I flee from your presence? If I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. If I take the wings of the morning and settle at the farthest limits of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me fast. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light around me become night, even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, for darkness is as light to you. Goodbye.